everybody. Welcome back into the Tide Talk podcast. Stacey Blackwood with Jake Thomas. Jake, what is happening, brother?
Whew, man, it's been a wild week. Uh, been a fun week celebrating. We took care of them dogs. Saturday. So man, it was great. It was great to see, man. That was an amazing effort by the boys.
Well,
Saturday.
yeah, no doubt. I hate that we're just now getting around to kind of recapping the SEC championship game, but life comes at you fast. So had a lot
Yeah,
going on this week. So we're just now able to sit down and kind of talk about what happened Saturday there in Atlanta with Alabama winning another SEC championship game. And we talked about it in the preseason. We talked about it all season long, and we talked about it leading up to the SEC championship game. You just don't doubt Alabama, and you don't doubt Nick Saban. And
no,
I hope people have finally learned their lesson on that.
I hope so because I mean, it was a different mindset and a different team. Especially coming from the Auburn game to lead up that week, the week of. And I mean, different mindset, different, it was just totally different effort. It was amazing to see. You just cannot count Nick Saban out, like you said.
No, and we're gonna dive into the game a lot more, obviously. And somebody says "Go Dogs rematch?" Question mark. It's obviously possible, and we'll talk about that as well
Yeah.
here before too long. I'm glad the Bama fan is admitting this was a different team. Yeah, I mean, well,
Well,
I'm not sure it's a different team, but
is it?
they realize their potential. I mean,
Yeah.
it's not a
It's
different
been
team.
it's been there.
I mean,
We
they
just
they
hadn't reached
they've
it.
showed flashes of what that team was Saturday all throughout the season. It just hasn't
Hmm.
been consistent. So it's not a different team. I mean,
Yeah. Yeah. It's been there the whole season. They just have not been able to put it together on both sides of the ball up until that point.
yeah. Well, in the defense, they they kind of played the modern defense in this game. Um, they played. They were willing to give up some yards, and they gave up some
Hmm.
yards between the 20s, but in the red zone, and that they created turnovers on that first possession. Dallas Turner got, or the second possession, excuse me. Dallas Turner got the sack to force the field goal. So
Hmm.
the red zone defense was big. They got a non-offensive touchdown. So just the way they played in the red zone was really one of the big difference makers in the game.
Yeah. You want
Green
to answer
Soldier
that?
says same Bama team that played Arkansas, Auburn, and LSU. So I mean, yeah, it's the same team. That's what we're sitting here saying, man.
Yeah.
They've played well in spurts in every single game,
Hmm.
and they just haven't put it together, for a full 60 minutes, and they were able to do that Saturday. And maybe the mentality was a little bit different because for once they wasn't the hunted, they were the hunter.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I would say the mentality was probably a little bit different because they were an underdog for the first time in, what, 6 or 7 years, whatever it was.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean that does change your mindset, and you given the sports media world giving Alabama all this fuel and Nick Saban the fuel to coach these guys up a whole week, talking about being the underdog and giving Alabama zero chance in this game because up until Saturday morning, I think Lee Corso and there's two guys on SEC Nation who picked Alabama, and of course we was as well. But other than that, nobody's picking Alabama in this game.
Yeah, I think on
Nobody.
SEC Nation it was Jordan Harper and Roman Harper, or
Roman,
Jordan
yeah,
Rogers
just
and Roman Harper.
Rogers, yeah, yeah, and we know why Roman picked them.
Yeah, but
So
I'll say this about the Alabama team about how it's. I'm not going to say it's a different team. I'm saying that if you look at Alabama's roster and who they have at skill positions and at different positions on the field, no team in the country has a higher ceiling than what Alabama has.
right,
So if they meet their ceiling, they're going to be better than pretty much anybody.
yeah,
So I don't think it's a different team. It's just about that team finding its potential and they exploited some of the weaknesses that we talked about in this Georgia team.
hmm
Uh, when we looked at this game, we thought this game was about if Alabama gets a lead or if Alabama makes it difficult on Georgia or makes Georgia feel the pressure of having to score on offense, what does that do to Stetson Bennett? And what it
Yeah.
done is it forced 2 turnovers, one
Yeah.
that was returned for a touchdown, and Jake Jordan Battle dropped a pick six on the
On
first
the
possession
first
as well.
possession. Yeah.
So I mean, we've seen it time after time with Stetson Bennett. Not to take anything away from him, he's a really good player. But when he has to throw the football to help his team win, he's just not the same player.
Right.
Because it's different throwing out of necessity than it is out of just to throw it.
Right. Exactly. And we talked about Georgia has not seen anybody on the eastern side or any of their competition this year that has an offensive powerhouse that Alabama can be,
Right,
and they showed
right.
the other day, or a defense that Alabama has.
Well, yeah,
You know,
and that's nothing against Georgia. They
no,
can only play the teams that are on their schedule.
it's
That's not
exactly
their fault. I mean,
that's not their
that
fault.
just kind of way it fell this year.
Right.
I mean,
But my
right.
my
I know.
point, yeah, I know you. But I was watching that game. We went to my brother's and we was watching it with them. And I told my brother, I said, if Alabama can get a lead and maintain the lead, I don't think Georgia. They have not been in that situation. They've been down a lot this year. I think I saw a graphic during the game. They only been down 20 minutes the whole entire season. I mean, just 20 minutes out of 11, 12 games.
I'm surprised it's that much.
I know, for real. I was that shot there. I think it was like 20 minutes. But they just have not had a challenge, like Alabama had, like Alabama was for them all season. And like you said, it's not their fault. You can't. Nobody expected Clemson to be as bad as they were on offense.
Right.
Starting out the season. So that's not their fault. But we exposed some weaknesses for sure.
Right. And one thing, like talking about Georgia, they didn't play a team like Ole Miss and Matt Corral.
Hmm.
I mean, so and and they didn't have to go to Texas A&M.
No.
And that's like I said, that's not their fault. It's just the way the schedule is. I mean, they can only play the teams that are on their schedule. So
Right.
that's not their fault. It's just the fact of the matter. And that's what we talked about all week was that no team that they have played this season was going to be able to test them, especially the secondary, the way that Alabama was going to be able to.
Yeah.
And they haven't had to cover a guy like Jamison Williams. They haven't had to cover a guy like John Mechie.
Hmm.
And they haven't had to face a quarterback like Bryce Young, who's
Right.
who's going to win the Heisman. So,
Yep.
I mean, I don't think Georgia fans should be hanging their head over their defensive performance.
No.
I think what they need to realize, and I think it's something that we've talked about on here, until Kirby Smart realizes that he needs an elite quarterback with elite skill players at the wideout position, it's going to be hard to outscore the elite offensive teams in college football. It's just
Yeah.
going to be hard because even with as great a defense as Georgia has, and they have a great defense,
Yeah.
it's hard to keep elite quarterbacks from scoring points. It just is.
In this new age of football, especially when it's all offense. Alabama come out and look like a completely different team. What would you say contributed to that? I mean, we've already been talking about it a little bit. You know,
Look, and see, I'm not understanding. We've seen flashes of this
yeah,
team the entire season, so it's just like Tides put it perfectly. They
yeah,
finally put a full 4-quarter performance of football together, and
right,
that's what it's all about.
yeah. I mean, the flash has been there. We like the Florida game. We had a great first half offensively.
Right. I
Second
mean,
half,
got up 21-3 on the road in the swamp.
yeah, and
I mean,
then
like that.
just like that, yeah,
So this team is the same team as they've been all year. It's just they
yeah,
finally put it together. What that is attributed to, I think it's what like we talked about last week. They heard everybody
hmm,
doubting them. I
yeah.
think, like Justin says there in the
Justin,
comments, it
yeah,
got to their pride was attacked. Look,
yeah,
if you don't think, they on Twitter and Instagram and Facebook, they talk about the Bama factor.
yeah,
If you don't think that means something to those Bama players, Saturday answered that.
yeah. And I mean, Saban talked about it. Nobody, not even the fans, them boys care more about a loss than us fans do. He said
Well,
that. And
well,
they feel just as bad about a loss than as we do,
look,
if
and it
not more.
wasn't just people that from around the country and other teams, Bama fans
Yeah.
were picking Georgia to win. I
hmm
mean, Clint Lamb is my guy, but he picked Georgia to win.
Yeah. Yep.
So it's just and the reason, and we talked about last week, 9 times out of 10, Jake,
hmm
the team with the elite quarterback in championship games
Yeah.
wins the game.
Right. Exactly.
And you want me to tell you one of those times that it didn't happen was when Alabama beat Deshaun Watson that first time for the
Yeah.
championship game. But look what had to happen in that game for Alabama to win.
Yeah.
We had to recover an onside kick. We had to return a kickoff for a touchdown, and it
Yep.
was still a one possession game.
Yeah.
So I mean, that's the kind of things that have to happen for you if you're not the team with the elite quarterback. Not taking anything away from Jake Coker. We all love Jake Coker, but
Yeah.
compared to Deshaun Watson, he's not he's not an elite
Yeah.
quarterback.
No.
So uh, more times than not, when you have Bryce Young against Stetson Bennett, who's going to win that?
Right. Young looked like he was having fun the whole time. The way he was smiling, kept his composure the whole game. Definitely kept us, the fans, at ease. I mean, there's been a couple of times this year where he's lost his composure. Of course, there was that picture that got circulated around the internet. I think it was might have been the A&M game where he kind of got frustrated, but Saban went over there and talked to him, put his hand. It might not have been A&M game. I can't remember what game it was, but most of the time, Bryce has been composed and he's been out there having fun.
Right.
So, you know, Ty said they're communicating better. People said they couldn't do it, and they finally trust each other regardless of the circumstances of the game. Iron Bowl put it in motion.
Yeah, and we want to try to get to everybody's comments, but we got to keep a conversation going as well. So, Jake, just looking at this game, what surprised you most when you watched this game unfold?
The biggest surprise for me is that offensive line and how they dominated that defensive line of Georgia. The front seven I mean, coming in, you had to give Georgia's front seven the advantage just to see what we've seen from the offensive line this year at Alabama. But Seth McLaughlin, has come in at that center position and has done great in the game and a half now that he's played in. 2 games actually, because he played the whole game at Auburn. But
No, he played the
uh,
second half of
he
Auburn.
played the second half of it. That's right. So it was a game and a half.
Yeah.
But he has done really well, and those boys just kept Bryce upright. I mean, Bryce had plenty of time all day to throw. He's not had that all season, don't seem like. And I mean, it wasn't just for a quarter or two. I mean, it was all 4 quarters. They dominated that front seven of Georgia, which has dominated every other, offensive team this year, offensive line that they played. So that
Well,
was great to see.
well, we've talked about the offensive line all season long, and we've mentioned that it's not a question of talent up
hmm
front.
Right.
We question the scheme and we question the communication. And Jake, I think we saw on Saturday against Georgia that communication is key and critical for this team. Seth McLaughlin had those guys in the right the right protection schemes, uh, and he just did a fantastic job of kind of making everybody and putting everybody in the right position and making sure everybody got the calls. And that was really the difference in the game, Jake. No sacks allowed. And of
hmm
course, they got some pressure on him every once in a while. But, Bryce Young, his great athleticism and, his just innate ability to be able to elude defenders,
hmm
took away some of those other opportunities. And yeah, somebody just mentioned Jameson is legit. He's
Oh,
unreal. His speed is next level. And I didn't think we'd find anybody as fast as Jalen Waddle, but he's as fast as Jalen Waddle.
I mean, he can take the top off, of the defense, and that little stutter step that he did, and pulled that safety just enough for him to
Yeah.
get past. That was amazing. Then you hit a quick slant on him. If you don't have a somebody there to cover as soon as he catches the ball and hit him, he's going to outrun everybody and get to that far sideline and go up. I mean, you can't catch him. I mean, we saw that the
Well,
other day too.
and there's no such thing as a good angle on Jameson Williams because he's
No,
going to beat the angle.
yeah,
He just has that extra gear that most people do not have. So, like you said, you get him the ball in space, it's pretty much it's over with.
yeah, it is.
And look, I want to. I asked you what surprised you most.
Now,
I'm
what
going to tell.
surprised you the most?
Yeah, it's not really a surprise, but something that just kind of gave me the warm, fuzzy feeling. It was the effort by Brian Robinson Jr.
Yeah,
I mean, he was really playing on one good leg and half of another good leg. And dude, he just all he did all day long was run as hard as he could to pick up 4 yards a carry or so. I think he carried it about 16 times in the game. But Jake, it wasn't about his ability to run the ball. He caught a
right.
couple passes. It wasn't about that either. It was about his pass protection and his blitz pickups.
Yeah,
Uh, and he was valiant, Jake. He went out there and fought for his team, and that's the kind of guys I want on my football team. It meant something to Brian Robinson to play in that game against that team, and he proved why he is. He's somebody that a lot of fans are going to remember for a long time.
absolutely. And another guy I was impressed with was Trey Sanders. He's
Yeah,
another. I mean, he's still a little bit banged up. I mean, he was in a car wreck a year ago, and he's still not 100%. But I mean, he gave a lot of effort the other day,
right.
and and it was great because I mean, you know, we talked about that front seven of Georgia. Nobody's been able to run against them, a lot, and them two guys, you know,
Yeah,
got got opportunities.
I'll say this. I thought both defenses played the run pretty well.
Hmm.
Neither team was able to really bust anything big.
Hmm.
And as far as the rushing attack goes, I thought both defenses done about what I thought they would do. When you got running backs like Brian Robinson and Trey
Hmm.
Sanders, and like Georgia has with Cook and
Hmm.
Zeus and the other guy, I can't. His name just slipped my mind, but
Zamir
they're
White.
that's Zeus, Zamir White
Yeah,
is Zeus.
that's right. I can't
But
think of it.
the, they're so talented. They're going to get. I mean, it's hard for them not to get a few yards every time they touch the ball, even
Oh yeah.
even with the great defense. So
Hmm.
I thought that the both teams played great rush defense, uh, and Alabama was just able to make the big plays in the passing game. Now I'll say this: Brock Bowers for Georgia
Oh, he's
is a
amazing.
freaking dude. He is an animal.
Yeah.
If there's a better tight end in the country, I'd like to see him. There's no way there's somebody better than him in his position. No way.
No way. There's not. One thing I want to point out. I think it might have been the first offensive series for Georgia going into the second quarter. They was up 10. They had the ball, and I think it's like 3rd and 2. They've been running that little toss sweep to the left and been getting some yardage, but they went right. And Christian Harris blew that play up. I mean, he
Yeah.
he knew it from the start, and then you kind of felt the momentum just swang ever so lightly in our favor. And then I think the next series we had that slant pass to Jameson, which scored a touchdown. So
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah, we talked about the defense kind of at the beginning of the episode and how they, played really well in the red zone. But I'm going to say this: they didn't really give up anything easy. Everything Georgia got yardage wise
yeah,
was pretty much earned. Alabama had a lot of penalties once again. I think 3 or 4 pass interferences. They had a late hit on the
yeah,
opening drive. I think the first play of the game. So excuse me, penalty yardage really added up on Alabama as well. But the secondary was never really out of position. No real busted coverages. DeMarco Hellams continues to play with a lot of confidence now that he's
yeah.
healthy.
Hmm.
And Jordan Battle right now is playing as good as anybody else at his position in the country. He is as good a safety as there is in college football at this moment.
Yeah,
Now, Kyle Hamilton from Notre Dame is the most talented guy at that position. But as far as somebody who's playing that position well, Jordan Battle is doing a great job, and he had that pick six, and like we mentioned, he dropped another one on the first
oh
possession of the
man,
game.
yeah. I mean, he was right there in his fingertips too. I was like, boy, that was amazing. Uh,
Yeah,
yeah,
Justin, it's amazing to see what a healthy DeMarco Hellams can do.
man,
He battled and Branch. They all three played fantastic. I know Kool Aid got beat a few times, but he's a freshman, man. I mean,
yeah,
trial by fire with him.
yeah,
Obviously, Job has been banged up. He's now out for the college football playoff, like most of everybody knows now, after having surgery on his foot. So tough to lose him, and hopefully he can have a speedy recovery. Still waiting on word for Jalen Armour Davis. So it's possible that Alabama could play this college football playoff without both of their starting corners. So there's a chance we see both Kool-Aid McKinstry and Kyrie Jackson as the starting cornerbacks for Alabama come, December 31st when they play Cincinnati.
Yeah,
Somebody says Henry Toto is a beast as well, no
absolutely.
doubt. Him and
Yeah,
Christian Harris, the last half of the season, played great football. Hard to really find a lot of fault in what they did, the latter part of the season. So the defense, like last year, really started to find its way here the last 4 to 5 games of the season. So I don't know what it is for whatever reason. It takes Pete Golden about 6, 8 games to
yeah,
get going in the season, but by the end of the year, they're as good as any defense in the country. So
absolutely.
really proud of the way they play. Look, like we've talked about it a bunch. Every now and then in this modern era of college football, you're going to give up some yardage. You have to be willing to give up some yardage.
Hmm.
But then you have to play some good defense in the red zone. You have to force turnovers, and sometimes you need to score some non-offensive touchdowns. And Alabama checked all of those boxes on Saturday.
Absolutely. The heart of the defense, Big Will. You know,
I would
I
make
would.
the
Yeah,
argument that Will Anderson is the heart of this team.
I was going to say him and Bryce Young fit right up there, the heart of the team.
Yeah.
But Will Anderson continues to do Will Anderson things, and him not being crowned the defensive player of the year,
Yeah, good grief.
yeah, is a travesty. But we'll get to that later on. Just going back to this game, though, I was just so impressed with how the guys responded and come out and play hard, man. It was great to see, and they never, once they got down by 10. We talked on SSC After Dark. We all the panelists there said that if either one of the teams got up by 10, it would be very very hard for anybody to come back. And we got down 10, but we just kept fighting, and then we
Look,
just dominated the second half.
Look, and this goes back to my point of why you should never doubt Nick Saban in Alabama,
Oh
because
yeah,
I don't care what the situation is. Nick Saban doesn't flinch, and his football team does not flinch.
nope.
When they got up 10-0, all Alabama did was go on a 41-14 run to end the game.
Yeah, no, that's amazing. You know,
And,
so
and a couple to the chat real quick. Slade Bolden, John, I'm glad you
yes,
said this. Slade Bolden, ever since he dropped that pass against whoever it was, I cannot remember who it was early in the year. He has made some clutch plays for Alabama. That
yeah,
that catch he made on the last drive Alabama had to kind of melt the clock and put the game away. Great catch, picked up a first down, kept the clock running. He's come up big for Alabama in some moments. I know he's not the most you know fun player to watch on the field, I guess, but he just makes plays when Alabama needs him. And I'll be honest with you. If it's 3rd and 5 to keep the drive going in a national championship game, I'm looking for number 18 if I'm Bryce Young.
right,
I mean,
yeah,
it's just he makes all those top plays for Alabama, and you got to have those type of guys. He's a great possession receiver. He's not going to bust a big play, but I think when the chips are down and you need somebody to pick up 4 or 5 yards on a quick hitch, Slade's probably your guy.
yeah. And he's gonna have to step up because losing John Mechie, we got to have guys step up, and he's definitely one that can, because I coin him as he's not going to outrun anybody, but he's a good possession receiver. Like you said, you need 4 to 5 yards to get a first down. You look for him. He's more 9 out of 10 times he's going to catch the ball and get the yardage for
Yeah. Federi Mathis was a nightmare up front against Georgia.
you.
And I'll be honest with you, I thought all of the defensive linemen played with great energy and effort.
He
I
did.
thought I thought Boygby was active, LeBron
Oh
Ray was active, Byron Young was active, but Mathis is just he's kind of what gets those guys going there on the
yeah.
interior defensive line, and he's probably nationally one of the most underrated players in the country.
And on talking about the Borgby, when he tipped that ball up and he almost intercepted it, man, I was like, man, please catch this, just because that would have been a huge confidence boost for him, because he's not done much, but in this game, like you said, he was more active, he's more, he just did what he needed to do, and I was like, man, but I feel good about Borgby, because he seems like he's getting his confidence back a little bit.
They say, what do you think the mood was from Saban and Kirby at midfield post game?
Mm,
Well, I know as fans of the team, we try to make it a big rivalry between the coaches, and it is as far as from a competitive standpoint. But at midfield, that was a personal,
Yeah.
meet. That wasn't about the matchup there. It was about, man. I don't know what was said, but I'm thinking Kirby probably said, "Man, what am I going to have to do to beat you?"
Right.
I mean, in a joking way,
Yeah.
and uh, and I'm sure Kirby was saying, "Look, man, we sure did. Everybody sure did give y'all a lot of rat poison this week, didn't they?"
Yeah.
So,
And that rat poison was yummy.
yeah, that was a great line by Saban.
It was talking about Saban. What I laughed about was, they went back to they did his trophy or the ceremony and all that, and they interviewed him. After that, he just walked off the field. I mean, it's
Yeah,
all go. He does have the 24-hour rule where he lets everybody celebrate, but to Saban, I don't know if he follows that or not. I think he's ready to get back to work, and
yeah,
that's all he had on his mind. He's like, okay, we got the SEC championship. We got to go over the national championship now.
yep, yep.
So I love that about him. He's just no nonsense.
Yeah. Well, I think we've really covered the whole game here in the first 30 minutes of the show. Real quick, let's just talk about the playoffs, Jake. The matchups are set. Alabama will play Cincinnati. Georgia will play Michigan. Just in a couple sentences, tell us what you're anticipating on those matchups.
For the Alabama and Cincinnati matchup, if Alabama plays their game like they play Saturday night, just in all honesty, it's going to be hard for Cincinnati to do much offensively. They might get a couple of scores, but I don't see Cincinnati's defense stopping Alabama at all.
Yeah.
Offensively, and on the Michigan Georgia game, it Alabama gave Michigan a great game plan to how to beat Georgia, and Aiden Hutchinson is not Will Anderson, but he's good. So they have a pass rusher that can get to Stetson Bennett and cause problems. And if they can run the ball successfully, and I don't know I can't remember their K McNamara, I think their quarterback. If he can make plays, Georgia might have some trouble. But I mean, I could see a rematch in the national championship game between Alabama and Georgia.
Yeah, I think if I was a betting man, I would say it's going to be a rematch of Alabama and Georgia. But I think Alabama probably handles Cincinnati, not easily because Cincinnati's a good team.
Hmm.
I think the playoff committee got it right. I mean,
I do too.
I don't know what other direction they could have went, if I'm just being honest with you. Um, but I think Alabama handles Cincinnati, and the Georgia Michigan game is probably going to play a lot more like what most people thought the Alabama Georgia game was going to play out. So, and if it goes like that, I would probably give Georgia the advantage just because they have more dudes than what Michigan
Oh yeah,
has.
for sure. I
But
just
all right,
yeah.
we'll talk more about that the closer
Oh
it
yeah.
gets. Real quick, Jake, the Heisman Trophy ceremony is tomorrow night. It's Bryce Young, C.J. Stroud, and Aiden Hutchinson. Uh, I'm assuming you think Bryce is going to win.
And Kenny Pickett's there too.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, I think it's Bryce's to lose, no doubt. But these things can go either way. A lot of people say Kenny Pickett had a Heisman moment the other night in their championship game when he did that fake slide, which there needs to be a rule about that
Oh,
because
they didn't change the rule already.
good because you know, you're told as a defender since they have this targeting rule, if if the quarterback starts to go slide, you got to check up. Well, once he's faked that slide, everybody checked up. They could not catch it because he was running full speed again. They was standing flat footed.
Right.
So
Right.
but Bryce, honestly, I think he had two Heisman moments the last 2 weeks. Of course, the 97-yard drive against Auburn, and then the championship game when he got scrambled out of the pocket right before he got to the line of scrimmage. He just happened to just look over and Brian
Pinched
Robinson
it.
was
Yeah.
right there. Yeah, and I was like, oh my gosh! I mean,
Yeah.
that was amazing.
Look, you know what's funny? And look, Kenny Pickett had a great year
He
for
did.
Pittsburgh, and he's a really good player.
Hmm.
But I seen an article from an Auburn website. as you can imagine, on why Bryce Young shouldn't win the Heisman, and
Yeah.
why, and kind of making the case for Kenny Pickett to win the Heisman. And one of their reasons was because of because Bryce Young had Jamison Williams. What's funny is Kenny Pickett's wide receiver won the Biletnikoff, not
Yeah.
Jamison Williams.
Right.
So
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know how much football those guys watch over there. So,
No.
but obviously not a lot.
Well, they didn't have a lot of team to watch this year, so
Frank says if Bryce does not win, UO beat
yeah.
Cincinnati 100-0.
Yeah, just keep feeding us that rat poison. We'll take it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Bryce in the open field he's elite in the open field.
That's another thing. He's finally using his legs a lot
He
more, which
is.
I'm
He is.
glad, because
He
that's
is.
a lot of people wanted him to do that, and now that he is, and he knows that he can break people's ankles and get extra yardage. Man,
Yeah.
he's electric,
Yeah.
with his legs.
Yeah. All right. Hey, we're not going to stay too much longer because it's late. It's Friday night. But real quick, want to tell y'all, early signing day is Wednesday.
Mhm.
Jake and myself are planning to do probably a 2-hour live show during National Signing Day to kind of talk about the class. So if you're available, then we'll put out a link for everybody to be able to be waiting on and get notifications for. But we would love to have everybody in there on that live chat when we go live during the early signing periods. And Alabama's most likely going to fill their class that day.
Mhm.
Maybe a handful of spots will be open for in February, but we'll just kind of have to wait and see there. But it's going to be a fun day. Really excited about that. Excited about the college football playoff, Jake. Excited about this Alabama men's basketball team that beat Gonzaga
Boom,
right
2-0.
after. Dude, is there ever been a better day for Alabama sports than last Saturday?
I can't think of it, and I was keeping up on my phone while the game was still going on, and first 10 minutes it was neck and neck, and then I watched the ceremony, and then right before halftime I was like 51-35. I was like,
Right.
holy crap, and we flipped back over after the ceremony and watched the whole entire second half, and I mean we didn't have an answer for Timmy, and neither did the
Yeah.
rest because they let him do everything. But
The
I mean,
refs were pathetic in that
they
game.
they were awful. I mean,
But
absolutely awful.
I'm going to say this. We didn't beat Gonzaga on a wing and a prayer. We beat Gonzaga because we were a better team that night.
Yeah.
And the fact that they're still ranked a few spots ahead of us, even though we beat them in a head-to-head on a neutral court, and they have more losses on the season. And I know they lost to us and Duke, but come on now, come
Right.
on.
Yeah.
I mean,
And
we beat them. I say a neutral court. It was in their backyard,
pretty much, yeah, I was going to say that.
and they got all the calls. I think we had like 13 more fouls than they did as a team. I mean, give me a break.
We had what, 5 guys that had 4 fouls, or maybe a couple, I think, got
It was
fouled out.
ridiculous.
But
It
I
was
mean,
ridiculous.
we would drive in that second half to the basket every time and not getting anything. But yet, I think Dibiaco was down low guarding
He had
somebody.
he had like 5, 6 blocks in that game.
He did, and they got him for like touching the guy. I'm like, man, what
No,
the
it's
crap is
ridiculous.
this? It
Yeah.
was, neutral court my butt.
Yeah. Hey,
So
Devin, we're ready for some from Bama baseball as well. Yeah, we're excited about that. I think they're going to have a really good team.
yeah,
Luckily this year, I don't think they have to play Vanderbilt, so
hey,
there's a series that we ain't got to lose. So,
that's right.
because Vandy's tough, man. But
They
we're
are,
excited about all that. There's a
and
lot to look
softball.
forward to. Softball as well. We're excited about all that. Excited about what 2022 is going to be bringing here to the Tide Talk podcast. We appreciate everybody that's been listening to us. Make sure you hit that subscribe button, hit that notification bell, share our link with all your Facebook friends, and we would greatly appreciate that. We're going to head out now. We appreciate everybody that was in the chat tonight. Had a lot of fun talking about this SEC championship game and a little bit more. We're going to be back to talk about the Heisman, talk about the playoff, talk about signing day, and we're excited about all that.
Absolutely, and we'll do some picks closer to the
Yeah, for
bowl
sure.
games, the New Year's Bowl for sure, because there's a lot of great matchups.
Absolutely. Looking
So
forward to it.
mhm.
All right, guys. Hey, we're going to head out now. Appreciate everybody watching. Roll Tide.
Roll Tide.